Good evening and welcome to another session of Facebook Live. It is not often that one has the privilege of meeting people who are truly inspirational, who have a story to tell that can act as a role model for children and young adults alike. We are fortunate enough to have a tutor, a maths and science tutor tonight with us, who has such a story. I'd like to welcome Nikita. Good evening, Nikita. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, John. What a wonderful introduction. And I am really honored and pleased to be speaking with everyone. I hope I can be a little bit of an inspiration to someone out there. So, yeah.
Certainly. Thank you so much for joining us. Nikita does have quite a remarkable story to tell. She comes from a disadvantaged background, and thanks to her hard work and thanks to her ability to overcome seemingly insurmountable challenges, she is where she is today. Without further ado, I'd like Nikita to tell us a little bit about her story. I'd like you to tell us about your disadvantaged background and how you were able to overcome those challenges.
Thank you very much. So just to start off with, I come from a place where it was a very complicated background, I would say at most. I moved around a lot when I was younger. I was in and out of the care system, which kind of broke up a lot of my childhood, being placed around, moving to different schools, different towns. It was really, really difficult. And I think I was in a place where I had simply just lost all hope and aspiration. And I just sort of thought, these are the cards that I've dealt with. And that's it. That life is life, and that's it. And so I entered the school system quite late in my life. I think I was in the end of year 4, as I can remember. And I was at a place where I could barely read. My writing was atrocious. I really found it hard to speak, which I just chose not to speak. So I couldn't make friends. I had no friends. I didn't want to kind of speak to anybody. I just enjoyed being part of the furniture, blending into the wallpaper, wherever I could be hidden, that's where I wanted to be. And then I entered secondary school, still in this care process where being in the care system, it was almost like a lot of the children around me had given up. The way that I felt like I shared that with many others. And it's almost like they felt like there's only one avenue in their life, and that is it. And that was already decided for them. And so it was a really negative environment. I remember that even the teachers around me, they used to kind of refer to the place like as if it was the home for the broken. And I believed it. I fully thought, yeah, this is where the broken children come. We are the losers. We are the ones that come last in life, and that's our fate. And I felt like as I was growing up, especially as I entered sort of from the age of 12 onwards, I felt like that's where a lot more influence came from children. And I was told by we shared sort of a dorm together, and they said, you know, you've got options, but your options are going to be either you're going to enter like, you know, a gang, or you're going to be selling drugs on the street, or you're probably going to end up pregnant or in prison. And literally they were like, worst comes to worst, you'll probably end up dead. And for me, I think that's when I realized, yeah, this is it. This is how I feel as well. This is where my life's going to end up. And then as I was in secondary school, we ended up going on this outward bound trip. And basically, just to put it into a nutshell, I couldn't make friends at school. I was bullied very badly. And they selected 14 people to go on this trip. And they thought it would be a great idea to bond us all and just kind of make the school an outstanding school Ofsted were coming. I was not happy about this at all. I really tried to get out of it, but I am really glad I turned up. This trip is probably the trip that changed everything. So I'm on this outward bound trip. It's basically a bonding exercise. We're doing loads of things, rock climbing, team building exercises, and I am with kids that absolutely hate me. They don't want to stand near me. They don't want to be on my team. I'm the last person chosen. And I remember going on this walk. And whilst we're on this walk, the teachers had come with us. And I just basically wanted to stall behind. So I was lagging behind the entire group and all the teachers. I remember they were really nasty towards me. And they were just like, why are you such a crybaby? You know, come on, you need to toughen up now. Just get with the other kids. You know, you're whining about things. This is life. And I remember just feeling so demoralized and deflated. And so I just remained stalling behind, and I just didn't care. And I remember this librarian who also was on the trip with me, and they decided to actually join me. So we basically were walking behind, and I didn't even know why they wanted to walk with me, but they decided to open a conversation. And that conversation, it was based about what my sort of living circumstances and what my life outside of school is like. And I started describing my room and how it's just this blank canvas, nothing really inspirational or inspiring. And so he laughed at me and he almost said, "It sounds like a poor person's room." And I started laughing. And that was great. He made me laugh. I said, "Yeah, it is. It's a poor person's room." But he then went on to say something really interesting. And he said that, you know what, I can make it a rich person's room. And I was like, what? This is very weird. I said, I'm not sure about that. You know, I don't have the money to design it. So he said, what do you have? And I said, I've got a bed, I've got a cupboard, and I have a few sort of shelves on the side, but there's nothing on it. And he said, well, what's the difference between a poor kid's room and a rich kid's room? And I was like, well, they've got TV and they've got, you know, probably a console, and, you know, they're able to have like their own wallpaper and they design it the way they want to. And he said, that's the wrong answer. He goes, you've missed it. He goes, the difference is the person that's come from wealth has a desk in their room, but you don't have a desk in your room. And so I really thought about that. And I was like, I have no idea what this guy's talking about. But apparently that's what the difference is between a rich kid's room and a poor kid's room. So he went on to explain why this desk makes that rich kid rich. And he goes, it's not about having the desk, it's about what you do on it. And he goes, what you can do with it is you can educate yourself so that you can have a rich life. And I was like, where am I going to get a desk from? And he goes, that's for you to figure out. Because he goes, if you want it, then you'll go and get it. I've just given you the message. I've just given you something. So I'll be honest with you, it took a couple of weeks. And this conversation really kind of got me thinking. And he was talking about basically the greatest talent. And he said, the greatest talent you find in life, he goes, I'm a librarian, I've read enough books. And he goes, the most talent you will find in life is in a graveyard. Because most people that had the talent and ambition, they never achieved it because they were too scared to take that risk. So then they died, not ever living their dream. But he goes, make sure that's not you. So thinking about this over the next couple of weeks, I decided I was going to go out there and I was going to buy this desk. Whether it sat there, I'm just going to put it in there. At least I feel like I fulfilled that conversation, because that conversation really motivated me. It moved me. There was something about a conversation that made me think. Got that desk, and then I was like, right, let's make it into a desk. I put some books on it. I remember getting some pens, putting some pens on it. And I thought, okay, we're going to make a start. Opening these books, I could barely read at this point. My speech was bad. So I decided I'm just going to memorize. I'm going to start learning things. And I'm going to share everything later on in this video. And I'm going to show you the entire sort of things that I did to make a success out of my life. But what I did was I decided I was going to give it 100%. So I studied. I studied for 2 years straight, and then we had some really important exams to take in year 9. And this is a part of the story where I think everyone's waiting for me to say it worked. I'm here to tell you I failed everything. Every single exam I failed. And I thought to myself, I've revised for 2 years, missed out on all my social life. I literally did nothing but study, and I failed everything. But when my teacher was handing out my results, I remember this. He said to me, it was my English teacher. He said to me, even though you failed, he goes, the one thing I must say is at least I could read your writing. And for me, that was incredible because I could barely write. I was almost illiterate. So the fact that he could read my writing to actually mark it, I felt like, okay, something good came out of it. At least he could read my writing. But then I asked him, I said, okay, so what is it? Because I sat there and I memorized everything. And he goes, yeah, but you didn't write what, was the question. You didn't write the answer to the question. So I was just like, I don't get it. Like, I barely understand numbers. I don't even understand words. What am I supposed to do? And I remember it was in year 9, because I had no sort of social life and I didn't really have friends. I used to spend like, I would say about an hour in the evening just playing around on something called Python. Now, some of you might be familiar with it. It's basically a computer programming sort of software where you can literally enter codes in and you see this little snake and it just moves around. And that was my entertainment, literally. So I remember playing this game and typing in these different codes to make the snake do different things. And I remember seeing it at the top, and it basically said the language of computer programming. And one of the biggest things I had difficulties with at school is, let alone understanding numbers. That was one thing. But I had no concept of letters in algebra and letters in general when it came to the English language. And so seeing this at the top, I was almost like, okay. So it says language and computer programming. So how can this be a language? Like, language is like Spanish or English. So it really made me think. And I remember going back to my desk, and there was an GCSE book on my desk, and I opened it up. And I opened it up to algebra, and I had a look at it, and I really thought about it, and I thought to myself, it's a language. I literally felt like there was a light bulb that went off, and I had realized everything that I had been doing was totally wrong. Everything. I had been sitting there memorizing. I understood nothing. And that was the moment where everything changed. I realized that actually I am studying a language. Maths is a language. Letters are a language. X is not. It's not something unknown. It's basically something we are trying to find out, and that's where everything changed for me in my life, and that is where the success started to happen.
You promised me a very interesting story, and you have definitely kept your promise, Nikita. That's quite remarkable, and I'm sure you have been able to share it with some of your students. I understand, though, that some of your friends did not know about this life story. They're watching it or hearing it for the very first time. I'd like you to tell me a little bit more about school and how you felt that many people who were supposed to be there to support you made you feel like you wanted to give up with their negative comments. Tell me about some of those experiences and how you overcame these challenges in particular.
Yeah, so I think coming back to what I was saying in school, so talking now about school and the teachers, I feel like I remember very vividly being in maths. I was in bottom set maths throughout the whole of school. And in fact, I was in bottom set for everything, which was core subjects. And I remember having a massive difficulty in sort of seeing my potential because they didn't see it in me. So all my teachers literally used to refer to me as thicko. And they basically thought that you're just a statistic. So you just need to turn up in order for us to kind of get everyone else through. But if 2 or 3 people fail, it's not going to be the end of the world. So I had about 3 other people in my class, and they were just messing around because they didn't want to do anything. But for me, I felt like teachers didn't want to help me. And there was a very much sense of negativity towards me, even wanting to do well. Even when I just sort of spoke about my English teacher, instead of saying thank you, not almost thank you, but at least I could read your writing, he could have helped me to see that I'm actually trying. How do I get this girl to now enter a different grade? Like, can she do more? But instead, they kind of expected me to fail. So I went through the entire school, nobody believing in me. I was literally so shy, so quiet. I never spoke to anybody. Yet I hardly wanted to be known. And I felt like during school years, teachers kind of enjoyed that. They never really praised me, but they liked the fact I didn't give them hassle. So they just kind of left me to my own devices. And as I was just speaking about finding out that basically learning is a language, I basically started to improve. And I remember I took my mock exams in December of year 11, and I achieved C's. And one teacher, and I remember this very carefully, this was my maths teacher at the time. When my results came back, I basically got C's and D's. Now, for me, a lot of you might be thinking, wow, that's really low. But for me, who was failing everything, that was pretty good. And that was just by me starting to understand what I was learning. I now understood it all. So I went to the teacher, and I remember this, and I remember asking them, what is it that I'm doing? I've sat and I understand, and I said, I can even prove it to you. Ask me something, I will tell you the answer. And they said, yeah, but the problem is like, it's impossible. Like, you can know things, but you don't know what the examiner wants. The examiner wants you to answer it in a certain way, and you're not answering it, and that's why you're not entering the higher grades. And so that day when I went home, I was like, right, this is it now. So I've got from A, I've got to B, now I'm going to get to C. So I'm about to share now some of the things I did in order to turn C's and D's into A's and A stars.
Yes, I understand that you went from very low attainment to some wonderful grades in your A levels, right? You got 4 A's and a B, I understand, correct?
Correct.
And I'd like you to tell us a little bit about that. Yes, I'd like you to tell us how you were able to overcome that really challenging situation that you had at school and turn all those grades, that low attainment, into those wonderful A-level grades that you got. What approach did you use? Tell us a little bit about that.
So yeah, before I share some of the resources and things that I've learned over 7 years, I want to say that it's not an easy journey, number one, and it takes a lot of determination and resilience to actually do this. And students that I teach will know that I teach in a way that I teach from my failures. So what I failed at, I now teach them how to be successful the first time round. And some of the things I'm going to share are some of the secrets that I learned, and it took me years to learn this. But what I learned is know the examiners, know your exam boards, and know what they want, and know what they're looking for. And the only way to know what they're looking for is to look at the past. So you look at past papers. So I'm about to share now something really interesting that I stumbled upon. So over here, I've got a specification. I'm just going to go to the top for a second. So I've just picked a GCSE Biology 9-1 Edexcel specification, and they have this for every single subject. And all you have to do is go and find your specification, find your exam board, and then as you will scroll down, you will find that the examiners have written their entire plan of what they're going to ask you in the exam. They are legally are not allowed, they're not allowed, sorry, to go outside of this document. So that's something that you guys need to realize, that almost the examiner is giving you the answers. You just got to figure out what to do with it now. So as you scroll down, you'll see, for example, 1.1, you've got a question now. And it says, explain how the subcellular structures of eukaryotic and prokaryotic cells are related to their functions. So at this point, you may or may not know what that means, but you make that into a question. And then you start finding all the past paper questions, which I'm going to show you in a second where to get them from. You start finding all the past paper questions and pinning them to that section. So if you come over into this website here, it's called Physics and Maths Tutor. Very misleading. I will show you why in a second, because they actually do a number of subjects. But if you just pick biology, we'll just stick to biology for now, you will find that if you go into the revision, and let's say it's, or in fact, let's go actually to Edexcel. And then you just go into your topic and you will find there's questions by topic. Now, these are all the questions from the past 15 years, every single question that's come up on this topic. So if you were to do this and then go back and link it to 1.1, you have now finished that section. And now you've learnt about what the examiner wants, how many marks questions hold, and how to actually answer an explain question or an in conclusion question, or can you describe? And this is the secret to what I did from December to June. And I literally took my C's and D's in every subject to an A and A star. I then used this exact technique in my A levels, and that's how I achieved the results I did. If once you have done this, so I'm just going to go on a little bit more just to brace it. So once you feel like you've gone through all the topics and you follow the specification, which is over here, you then can go on to a website called MME. And then you just pick again. So GCSE science, we're just going to stick to the science. And then what we can do is say, right, GCSE exam questions, sorry, not by topic, papers we want. So if you go to biology, and then over here, you will find loads of revision cards, revision resources to use for each of the topics. You will find GCSE revision. And if you go back to where you found the questions by topics, you can go to the past paper section as well. So if you go to the top and you press past papers, you go to biology, you will also be able to find all the past papers and do them and to see your progress. And so this is what it's about. It's about finding out what is it the examiner wants and basically beating the examiner. Not worrying about just revising, because just revising will get you 50% there. The other 50% comes from what you do on the exam day, and this is what's going to get you there. So yeah, I'm just going to stop showing. So that's basically the journey of how to get those kind of results in a short space of time.
Thank you for sharing those wonderful resources. I'd also like to talk about what happened a little bit later in this journey. You later got a master's degree in pharmacy. You worked as a pharmacist for a while, and I know you don't like to brag, but I'd like you to tell us a little bit about the award that you won at the Lonza Group. And then after that, you decided to go into teaching. Tell us why you made this shift into teaching.
Amazing. So the award, I have to thank my chemistry A-level teacher, Mr. Wilson. You're amazing. I basically got, we were all told to do a project. So 250 students entered this project, and it was an A-level task. So we either could do a written essay, which, let's be honest, I was not going to venture out into, or you could do this practical experiment and enter a competition. So forgetting that it was a competition, I entered the practical side of it, and mine was on caffeine. And I actually got selected from my school. I was one of 3 that got selected by Mr. Wilson to go and do this talk at Lonza. And I was up against several other people. Now, these candidates that I was up against were real academic, smart people. And I didn't have that sort of confidence. I knew that I was like a hardworking candidate, and I knew that I knew my stuff, but I literally went to him and I said, I'm not doing this. I'm withdrawing right now, because I'm going to come last anyway, so there's no point. And he goes, I think you can win. And he says, I'll tell you what you've got that all of them don't have. He was like, yeah, they've got the 100% grades, but you've actually got a personality. And I was like, but personality is not going to get me through. Like, surely they're looking for the science. So he convinced me, and I was like, right, I'm going to do this. And he goes, I will support you. No one's coming to see you, but I will be there in the sidelines and I'll watch you do this. So anyway, mine was on caffeine. I turned up. I basically took I took the James Bond film. I took the first 5 minutes of Casino Royale, where he's driving the car down the cliff, mountain, and I basically used the engine of that car, because I loved cars, to explain how caffeine works in the body. And I made it funny. I put some Starbucks memes in. I did this like role play thing. I got them laughing, let's say that. But the chemistry was, I would say, minimal. And then I watched everyone else's go through it, and it was like they had really shown their results and graphs and this and this and this. And I said, do you know what? At least I got them laughing. You know what? Let one of these people win, anyways. And then the next thing I know is they actually awarded me. I won the entire thing. I actually won £250 as well, for everyone that entered the competition. That's how they worked it out. And I literally, that was the moment where I think I actually came out of my shell, and I realized that actually someone had seen a personality in me, which I had never seen inside of me. I always was quite a shy person. So being awarded this was fantastic. It really kind of made me realize to go and get things. And that is basically where my confidence came from.
That was an extremely creative presentation. That was great. Thanks for telling us. We are running out of time, but I'd like you to talk about your teaching experience. Just we only have 3 minutes left, but tell us a little bit about your teaching experience and what advice you would give to students, especially those who come from disadvantaged backgrounds, who are struggling with maths and science, subjects that some students find very, very challenging. Okay, STEM subjects always are. Please tell us a bit about that.
I think the main thing I used is, like I said to you, I never understood numbers and letters and things like that, and words. So one of the things I used is stories. So I created analogies, and the students that I teach know me very well, that I teach them the analogies that I learned. And they are basically ways for me to understand maths, and ways for me to understand science. Because if you memorize something, you're only going to remember it for a short while, but you're not going to retain it. So the best way to do it is understand that you're going to fail. You will fail 100 times before you actually understand something, but it's about not giving up. It's about having the resilience to say, actually, I'll have 100 failures, but that one success of collecting, say, your GCSE result and seeing the grade that you want, that success will make you forget all the failures. So don't give up, carry on, and reach out. If you feel like you need some sort of help, or there's a topic you don't understand, find a way to understand it. And if you can't, speak to other people, see how they're learning it. And yeah, I'm happy to help as well. But maths and science, if you break it down, it isn't as hard as I would say they portray it to be.
Thank you so much, Nikita. I can see why you're able to reach out to your students with such ease. That was a very, very inspirational story, I must say once again. Thank you so much for your advice and for sharing the story with us tonight. I wish you a very good night. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.